Guess who's once again stealing the limelight? All those leaders who flew thousands of miles for an EU Latin America summit, well, they've been upstaged by sideline talks to stop Athens from defaulting on its debts at the end of the month. We'll see if Angela Merkel and François Hollande can mend relations between Brussels and the Greek Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, who in a Tuesday interview contended that a Grexit would mark the beginning of the end of Europe's common currency. So who's got who over a barrel? On the one hand, failure is not an option for Europe. On the other, many players in this Greek drama say we're back to pretending we can fix the unfixable. And as the rhetoric grows increasingly acrimonious over the past week, investors have taken fright, pulling more of their cash out of Greece. Gone are the heady days of January when, after a Syriza victory, Tsipras could count sympathizers across the continent, and creditors themselves were admitting that perhaps they'd come down too hard on Athens. Why the seeming inability to apply fresh ideas? Is this where the dream of European integration reaches its limits? Today in the France 24 debate, are Greece and its creditors playing with fire? With us to talk about it from Athens, political analyst Yanis Koutsoumidis. Welcome back to the show, sir. Always a pleasure. Joining us from Brussels, Peter Kleppe of Open Europe, which advocates EU reform. Thank you for being with us. And she's the Paris correspondent for Greek television, Thomais Papaioannou. Well, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anna Boada, economist with the firm Euler Hermes. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
And gosh, I can say it. A French politician who works for a German bank.
Yeah.
Franck Marguin.
Still exists.
who is both a regional councillor and as well managing director at Deutsche Bank. Welcome.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome back to the show. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter. Our hashtag F24debate. Now, before we cross to our panel, let's go to Brussels for the latest with correspondent Mabe McMahon. Mabe, when the day began, the situation had deteriorated so badly, there was doubt cast on whether or not those sideline talks would even take place. It looks like it's now going to happen, though.
It is indeed. It has indeed been a very tricky and confusing few days. There's a sense of fatigue and frustration among a number of EU sources that I speak to that are close to the talks. We saw Jan-Claude Juncker, the President of the European Commission, express his frustration, mainly because of the speech given by Alexis Tsipras in his parliament over in Athens last Friday. Jan-Claude Juncker thought that he had fixed everything in those late-night talks last Wednesday with Alexis Tsipras and with the head of the Eurogroup, Jeroen Dijsselbloem, but that was not the case. And that's why we saw this fatigue as well being expressed in the Commission's daily briefing today at 12 o'clock. A spokesperson for Juncker said that the latest proposals from Athens were not in line with what was discussed in that meeting last Wednesday, and Juncker would not be making space in his agenda to meet Alexis Tsipras today at this EU Select Summit. But in the last hour here at this EU Select Summit, so Latin America and European Union, there seems to be a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for Greece. Jan-Claude Juncker, the President of the Commission, has already met with his Greek counterpart and said that they will continue these discussions tomorrow. We've also heard from a Bloomberg report that Angela Merkel, who was also in the building, maybe has another plan up her sleeve that would give Greece a little bit more time, that would see some of that bailout money, those 7.2 billion already being unlocked, for them pushing through at least one economic reform. She wants to see a kind of step-by-step process, as she, like everyone else, can see that the current Brussels talks and all the constant toing and froing is just not working.
Earlier in the week, Juncker quoted as saying Greece had lost the Commission. How isolated is Athens?
That's exactly what Jan-Claude Juncker supposedly said yesterday when he met his counterparts from the Commission in Strasbourg. He said Greece had lost the Commission. And as you know, Jan-Claude Juncker, he's a federalist. He's very pro the European Union. He's pro the Eurozone. He has said since day one that a Eurozone, or that a Grexit, a word that he dislikes, would be disastrous, not just for Greece, but for the Eurozone alike. Now, people were thinking that perhaps Alexis Tsipras had lost its last friend, that of Jan-Claude Juncker. But being at this meeting, there seems to be a tone of cautious optimism, changing from that fear and confusion that was there for the last few days and the last few hours. So time will tell whether in the next few hours a deal can be sealed. Angela Merkel said today that Greece's place is in the Eurozone. She said, when there's a will, there's a way.
All right, many thanks for that. Maeve McMahon, our correspondent in Brussels. Tomais Papaouanou, at this point in time, it's been an up and down week. Is this the usual grandstanding and at the end of the day there's a deal?
I think so, yes. But this drama with all the actors saying their own scenario, what happens and how they deal and how angry they are, the frustrated they are, but they don't get what they want. It's like players in theater, and everybody tries to impress the others and do the spin. Like public relations, who's going to win in the headlines of newspapers. But at the end, yes, it will be a deal.
All right. So, and this news that Maeve was telling us that perhaps this report that the German Chancellor has her own plan.
I think it's much more complicated than that. It's not just one plan against a half plan of Tsipras. Or it's so complicated, and all the details are so complicated themselves that only the Brussels group know what it's been talking about right now. And definitely there is not one plan. There are several proposals. The Greek made their own proposals. The Juncker made some proposals. Now we're expecting of Merkel. But at the end, it's always like a deus ex machina who comes. Probably it's Merkel deus machina, who will present another plan. Oh my God, we're surprised. Now we get a deal. You know.
Franck Marquin, you agree?
Hope it won't be devil instead of Deo, but being more, realistic and more serious. We are in the corner of a double equation here. He got a mandate from this population to actually do a deal and to do a different policy. But unfortunately, they gave him a mandate on extreme right of the political field, extreme left of the political field, sorry. Which means he has no tools to work in an organization like Europe, where Europe has not been built on extreme left organization. Which means you have the tools, and that's more the economics, and that's more the we could talk about, all these tools, ours. That's, in my understanding, not the main issue. The main issue here is politic. He has been elected by the majority of the population, but the majority of the population wants them to stay in the Eurozone, because that was clearly asked in the election. You are going to vote for me with the promise I will stay in the Eurozone. So now, how he can go out of this field? First, I'm surprised and a bit disappointed by him that he is not left anymore. Because, if he would have been a very left guy, as we did in France, in 1981.
Not left wing, you're saying?
Yes. He would have, nationalized the banking world or whatsoever. But unfortunately, it's not possible. He would have renationalized the Piraeus port. But unfortunately, it's not possible because they have been under contract with the Chinese. So that's where he's playing, I would say, a wrong role, because at the end of the day, he will be obliged to do something. And they will be obliged.
So you're saying Europe can call his bluff as a result.
And he will lose probably more credibility than Europe will lose.
All right.
However, we have to lose. Everybody will lose if they go out. I'm not advocating, he should go out or Greece should go out. But we've got, one, to respect the population, but on the same, to respect the European organization.
All right. Alexis Tsipras does think he has a card up his sleeve. It was an interview published Tuesday in Italian daily Corriere della Sera, where the Greek Prime Minister said, I think that it is evident that a Grexit would be the beginning of the end for the Eurozone. Already last week, in that speech that our correspondent said infuriated Jean-Claude Juncker so much, he hinted that time was on his side when it comes to that June 30th deadline to reach a deal to get the 1.6 billion euros owed to creditors.
There is no time limit in the negotiations. Our time limit will be striking a deal which will be viable and fair. Our time limit is for dignity and justice for the Greek people and the prospects of the Greek people.
Boata, there's no time limit, he says.
Well, it's true that we are running out of time, and I think he got a real.
He says, I'm not in a hurry.
He is, unfortunately, because we have a clear deadline, which is June 30. And it's true that we are all surprised of how long this situation takes and how difficult it is to find a compromise now. But at Euler Hermes, we continue to think that there is no other option out apart from a compromise or an agreement, if we can call it like that, a last-minute one. This is something that has been done in Europe for the past 5 years. So I would say that we are reactive but not proactive, unfortunately. And we suspect that we won't get anything apart from an extension of the current bailout. So this, of course, helps us to, let's say, exit a little bit this wait-and-see attitude and this economic fatigue, if we can call it like that. But this won't help economically Greece. So we won't have any true program or a precautionary credit line or something sustainable, in our view, by the end of the year, or at the earliest, at the end of the year, early 2016.
And is that what explains this capital flight that we've seen anew coming out of Greece?
Yeah, it's true that we saw capital flight, but it's mainly households. And in our view, it's also the Cyprus experience, where people don't know what to expect. So they fear that there will be capital control. So they had this experience next to them. So out of the more than 30 billion that have been taken out from the banks since December, we have more than 20 from households. But on the other side, we also see some surveys where we see that almost half of the Greeks need savings to spend, so to pay their taxes, rents, to eat, to go on holiday. So somehow there is a sort of uncertainty, but no panic, and somehow there is also the need, no?
All right, you can't stash all of it abroad. Let's go to Athens and to Brussels. First, Athens and Yanis Koutsoumidis. Who's got who over a barrel in this negotiation?
Well, it seems that they're both in a very difficult position right now. Both Mr. Tsipras has got to compromise with his pre-election pledges, and also Ms. Merkel has to give some concessions to the Greek side in order for a compromise to be reached. It will be difficult for both leaders to pass the agreement in Parliament, especially for Mr. Tsipras, who has very big opposition in his Syriza left-wing party. But if the agreement or the concessions that Ms. Merkel will give to Mr. Tsipras have some specific measures regarding the debt and also some liquidity for the next months, I think there will be an agreement also in the Greek parliament, because according to the Greek constitution, if the agreement is not passed, the government will have to fall and new elections will take place. And I don't think it's in the interest of anyone right now to bring down the government. So I think it will be difficult moments or hours or days ahead, but logic says there will be an agreement reached.
All right. There's a lot of division among viewers when it comes to what to do next. Andrzej on Twitter, let's hope they will pull the trigger and end this ideological nightmare, which is the euro. So there's one voice for Greece pulling out, rooting for it openly. Peter Kleppe, who's got the upper hand in this negotiation?
That's hard to say, actually. I think from both sides there's a lot of pressure. Angela Merkel is under pressure back home. Tsipras is under pressure. I think the most likely outcome is what we've been seeing for the last 5 years, that they're going to try to kick the can down the road. The only problem is that just prolonging the current bailout won't be sufficient. Most likely we will need to see a third bailout for Greece. More importantly, politicians have not everything under control here. We can see that there is indeed some kind of a slow motion bank run going on in Greece. And in order to respond to that, the ECB continuously has to increase the possibility for the Greek central bank to create euros to fund the Greek banks. This cannot go on forever. So there's a real economic deadline there. And you can wonder if it's desirable just to basically splash cash again to sort of solve this problem if we don't need any more fundamental solutions. It's true that the Greek people don't want Grexit, but the euro is basically the credit card of Greece. So it's kind of normal that they're against that. But this mechanism, the euro, which allows Greece to go into debt to a very serious extent, is not a good thing for the country. So I think the main question is how can we organize a transition out of the euro that is as painless as possible?
I think that Europe is a credit card to itself. Actually, they're borrowing Greece, so Greece would pay back the debt during the last 5 years. So it's an endless circuit of money given back to the banks, back to the institutions. Actually, the money they will get now will immediately go out from Greece to the banks, to the institutions, because they owe a lot of money, especially to 2015. It's a very heavy year. So they will pay back all the debt for the year, but they will nothing left for the mainstream economy. And this is the biggest problem. One time, we need to pour the money into the economy, and the enterprises, the businesses, they have to deliver some money to the state and create money, see growth. Without growth, there won't be a payback for a long time. Actually, I agree with him. There will be another kick in the can, and it's endless. And I think Varoufakis is one of the few people, finance minister, who doesn't really want that. He really wants a solution, a real solution to the problem. He says adding debt to the debt, you won't find yourself a solution.
Let me ask you, because if we'd had this discussion 2 years ago, yes, I'd understand, because a lot of the money was still in the hands of banks. Now that money has been shifted to the public sector, if I'm not mistaken. So why can't states agree to some kind of what they call a haircut for?
I just want to remind you and to remind our auditors that we have done such a haircut before, and actually the European population has paid already a lot in terms of giving to Greeks some haircut and reorganizing the debt and all the state.
But as Tomai says, the Greeks can't reimburse if their economy doesn't grow.
But let me finish what I just want to say. We have done already. If we want to do more, and why not? We've got to pass through all different parliaments in Europe in order to let them accepting, because Europe is not a one state. They have this agreement with Greek under a common agreement. So that's the reason which is technically not possible. If you decide that this reason is not a good reason anymore, that means all the European construction is not good anymore. And that's where we cannot go. I'm not saying that in the next future, and that's what I want to say right now. I think that one of the solutions for Greece, we talked about, and I fully agree with you, all this money transfer, but Varoufakis has really played a very nice role in the way that what do we need as a Greek? We need Europe to help us to build, I'm talking the world, to build a system where we could raise taxes, where we have an administration, a public sector which works. Unfortunately, for the last decades, the Greek governments, the different governments, have not put in place a real administration. What is the sake of Europe today? We, more or less, have a very good administration, very good public servant, who are able to raise taxes, to let them people
the Greeks see that up. I'm going to have to cut you off because we have to take a very quick break, but we will pick up on it. I'm the one who's sorry to cut you off. Well, stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.